Source versus resource. Joel Osteen, Osteen, I guess it is, one of my favorite people in the world, says that, excuse me, I might have to sneeze. Excuse me. Anyway, he says that people could be your resources, but only God could be your source. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but he says it's pretty close to that, if not exactly. That, we look to people, we look to our jobs, we look to our spouses, our kids, siblings, strangers. I'm just making that part up. But for support. But God is the ultimate support. Basically, what he's saying is that God can use people as a resource for you and for other people, but the power, the energy, the helpfulness, the support, the resource that's enabled by people comes from the source. And then people can let you down, but God doesn't let you down. Sometimes God may not step in right away for XYZ reasons. It's hard to always know God's reasons, but we're supposed to focus a little bit less on the resource and more on the source. What happens is we misattribute. I kind of, putting my own thoughts in here also in addition to what Joel was saying, but I think he kind of implied a lot of this, if not said some of it also. We think that our power comes from our boss or our employees or our spouse or our kids, but our source, like God can put anything in a person's heart. God can harden a person's heart if it's not the right situation for us, so that we have to move on. Or God can open people's hearts so that it is the right time and it is helpful. And I know in my life that, Joel had another episode, another preaching or sermon or whatever you call it, to his congregation, where he said that let God into your troubles, and that sometimes God doesn't want to perhaps change our circumstances, or as Joyce Meyer would say, sometimes God uses our circumstances to change us. And I find that a lot, that my circumstances have really changed me quite a bit for the better over my life. Not that I was bad to begin with, but Joyce Meyer said that people kept coming into her life that were like sandpaper, and that was because of all her rough edges that needed to be smoothed out. And I think that they say that whoever they are, that God is never late, but he's never early. And I found that, I guess they call it like the 11th hour or the 12th hour. I found that God or life, whatever you want to call it, has always come through for me, but it hasn't been at the 10th hour. And sometimes it hasn't been at the 11th hour. Sometimes it's been at the 12th hour. And I guess they call that like the knife's edge or the razor's edge. I mean, it really just boosts your faith if you let it. It could go in the opposite direction, but I think for me, when I'm most challenged, it increases my faith for the most part, almost always. And because basically you have to, like when you come to the end of yourself and you see that like you've run out of good ideas, you use, like 14, 16 hours a day of your own energy, and it's still only having marginal results sometimes. Sometimes it has fantastic results, but then you realize that you're limited in your own insight, understanding, and ability to maneuver influence, that without some kind of grace, like something really good happened to me today, and I could just feel, I can't prove it, but I could just feel that it was beyond my own. Like someone had to change a heart. And Joel was saying that also, that, like when their ministry bought the Compact Center, that there was a big lawsuit against them, and one day the guy just met with them and agreed to, out of the blue, for no apparent reason, just met with them and agreed to drop the lawsuit so they could get the Compact Center. I think that things like that happen. I mean, sometimes rarely. Joel has a third episode that I watched recently. It's not that I spend that much time watching because I'm pretty busy, but I might watch 10 minutes, 15 minutes here and there when I can. But he says that things will happen quickly sometimes, like with the compacts that are just out of the blue. And something good happened to me today, just out of the blue. You know, it's funny they call it blue. What does that mean, out of the blue? But yeah, it's like we think it's going to take. The example Joel gave was that like when the Hebrews or Israelites, whatever, were being chased out of Europe, not out of Europe. They were also chased out of Europe, unfortunately, and I'm Jewish as well. But when they were chased out of Egypt, and the Pharaoh's chariot, I guess, guys were chasing after them, and they were trapped against I think it's the Red Sea. But anyway, and the waters parted. You know, God told Moses, "Lift up your staff." Like, there's nothing, as Joel was saying, in the natural to think that the waters are going to part. You know, it's like Joel said, maybe by evaporation they might part. They might dry up in like 1,000 years or 100 years or whatever it takes. But suddenly, that's what Joel was just saying. Suddenly, so just to come full circle, you know, people can be a resource. Like people say, Tony Robbins says, it's not your resources. It's not a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Resources come from people. Resourcefulness, even though some people might think it comes from themselves, true resourcefulness, true creativity, I believe comes from God. It's kind of like people say like artificial intelligence, which I study a lot, can see patterns, see things which humans can't see, and I think God's the same way. I'm not saying artificial intelligence is exactly like God, because I don't think it is, but there's human understanding, and then there's understanding beyond human understanding, and AI, you know, more narrowly now, and perhaps someday more generally. And I think God, obviously, there's a patterns. You know, someday we're going to be inhabiting, if we survive, the uh, the solar system and the galaxy, and we'll see. Like we had such a constrained, small way of thinking. So I've never seen anything like this. Somebody's riding, I think, along the median, but I think they're actually on the side of the road, but going in the wrong direction on the interstate. It's kind of crazy. On a bicycle, doing a wheelie for like 100 yards at least, with a bunch of people behind them. But I guess wow, they're all doing wheelies. Not all of them, but some of them. Um, but anyway, so people can be your resource, but don't misattribute. Don't think that people are your source.